Alright, welcome back to the Wallace Branch, and we are following Hank Williams here in the Z3, who has just completed at the end of the very last episode, dropping off some log cars at Lookout Pass. And now Hank is coming back to Lookout Pass because Hank is the helper on the train that's coming down from Lookout Pass and going to Mullen. So we're going to need to take care of a bunch of tasks this episode, I hope. And I had totally forgotten that there was an auto horn there that would go off anyway. So that's why I did it myself a little bit in advance. But yeah, here we are in our track 3, Wallace. And now we can go to the rest of the train. Gosh, this train seems like we're just not slowing down here. Track mark is way back there. So perhaps the thing to do here would be to just connect up this way. Not what I was planning to do. But equally efficient. I don't think there was any efficiency loss in that whole process. It is nice to see those trains coming around the corner. Mother Slug is here. Hello. Steam, nice, Mother Slug says. Wow, that's a steep grade. It is indeed. Wallace Branch grades of 4% on each side of Lookout Pass for several miles. And was constructed initially as a temporary line, intended to be replaced by a tunnel. But that never happened, so the 4% remained in place till the closure of the line 100 years later. And as I discovered last time, and I guess rediscovering every time I play this game, it takes a while for this Z3 to stop on Lookout Pass. Seems logical, but getting an actual feel for that has not been as easy as I thought. And this is a real location. I have been there. I've driven it. Not in a train, but in a car. Including when the rail line was here. So I think we're going to go to Mullen NP Track 3. Okay, so it was just the fact of Hank being at the back end there, I guess. Okay. Let's see if that horn goes off now. I doubt it will. We are here with Alan Alda, and Alan Alda is just getting ready to go into Wallace with a very long train with a bunch of units. And if you remember last episode, we know that we had a rather large and embarrassing screw-up where basically delivered a bunch of cars to Mullen that actually are going to Wallace. So now we are in need of rectifying that situation by taking all those cars back to Wallace, which is where we are right now. The question is, do we have any tracks free? Looks like the only track free is the main UP track down the center. Now, coming back to this train, we've got wine, 5 reefers filled with wine, and then we've got a bunch of ore cars, which will be going to the smelter, and in the back, I believe, is Woody Harrelson. Woody Harrelson will be delivering those ore cars to the smelter. And Alan Aldo will be in the Wallace yard helping out, because there's a lot to do in Wallace. Slow this down a little bit. It was a little bit messy again because of the auto horn taking over for me in the middle of my efforts. Mother Slug says Saluda grade was only 4.8% grade. Mach Chunk at the time was the only railroad line in America, so you could say it was a main line, as no other railroad existed at the time when it operated in, I'm guessing that's 1827. Sure, I mean, some of the switchbacks, I believe, on the Northern Pacific and elsewhere were much higher as well, even though that was a much later date. And in fact, the Wallace Branch, the lookout, I don't know if you can hear that, that's the hot box detector coming out of Lookout Pass. But basically, the Lookout Pass 4% grade, that was the steepest grade on the Northern Pacific, although it was, of course, on a branch line, excepting the temporary switchbacks in Washington and Montana over the main passes. Those were much more temporary than the Wallace Branch was. Okay, so having delivered that, we're going to come back to, who do we have here? Let's get our words straight here. I believe this is Jeff Daniels. Yes, Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels just needs to go ahead a little bit so we can get those cars into, oddly enough, into the fuel track. Just because there's no other tracks available that are convenient enough. Taking our time. We only have an RS2, but we only have 5 cars, so shouldn't be too hard. Yep, we definitely need to do some switching in this yard to clean things up and empty out a few more tracks so you can get around things. And switching out this TFC track is particularly problematic because the neighboring track, as you can see, it would be very convenient to just switch the flat cars onto this short track here, and it has space. But the problem is that, unfortunately, there's no way that I can think of to prevent it from simply unintentionally loading up those empty flat cars with pipes. So when it's in the opposite situation where we're loading TOFC cars here, then that is a possibility because they won't load with pipes if they're already filled. But in this case, we can't do that. And on the other track, the track to the left, that's the Wallace Warehouse track. We can't do that either because the Wallace Warehouse is going to be needed for our actual unloading of that wine, I believe it is. So yeah, switching, switching, switching. If you don't like switching, then probably you've already clicked away. Are we going to be able to slow down in time? I don't want to stop. I don't want to stop short, because this is truly this may be my shortest track, because I want to get it really right up against it. Okay, so let's just leave that there. And then maybe we can start this little quote-unquote cleanup operation. Actually, you know what I think was going to be really smart? Is just taking these cars here off first. So if we get the reefers off... Yes, 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 yes. Let's make sure the switches are aligned, yes. No. So if I just take the reefers and put them where they need to go, then I can come back. Or I can... No, I can't do a runaround. Mother Slug says, Mach Chunk operated hauling anthracite from the mines 1827 until 1845. And Mother Slug says, switching is great, I love it. Curious, do you use any third-party locomotives at all? Yes, I have used... Now, I have added some third-party locomotives just in the last episode of this series. I added the locomotives that are at the back of that train that you see in the distance, and I'll rotate the camera over in just a moment. Because, and I did discuss this in the last episode, but I'll discuss it again, because I like to. But essentially, the fact that I designed all of my own locomotives is really just an accident of not finding any that I was satisfied with on the DLS. And I don't think I'm a perfectionist, and I don't think my locomotives are perfect. Now, somebody did complain about, or point out, politely and constructively criticize that I had included some GP38-2s, which were painted and also equipped with various different things on the rooftop that were more appropriate to a later era. So I did replace them with these assets. So these are Wigwag Simulation GP38-2s, but I am not satisfied with these either. As to when I might get around to doing something about that is another question. And also on this route I have the SW1500, which the same commenter noted also is a rather later paint scheme and light arrangement configuration. But that one I am definitely not planning to do anything about, although I am hoping to make my own SW1500s, so this observation is subject to change. And I want to note that just delivering these 5 cars, that now is a today task. Once these are unloaded, that delivery will have been completed. So a task was just completed there. And as everybody probably who's watching this knows, it is somewhat challenging to get all of these tasks done, because we have more today tasks that need to get done this day, game time, than on any other day previously. Mother Slug says, cool, what time period are you going for that you say? I would say ending in 1980 for sure. But of course, like many model railroaders, I am playing with a fictional era where there's transitional elements like steam engines. late steam era steam engines. We're not talking about 1800s era steam engines, but pretending as if it's a transition era, even though obviously there would not have been any steam engines in the Wallace Branch by 1970. And the Burlington Northern, of course, came on the scene in 1970, and then the Wallace Branch was closed in 1980. So we're going to pretend that it is in the 1970s, and of course the containers might be a little bit early for that. I mean, out of era for that, but the TUFCs definitely okay for that era. Okay, so if we come back here, how to handle this, Mother Slug says, work with what you have, play it how you want. Yeah, thank you very much for that. But, I am open to that criticism. When people are like, oh, I'd like to see, somebody didn't like to see that SPUP merger era paint job. And I'm like, well, I can understand that. I'm open to suggestions. I'm not going to take all the suggestions, but I'm open to suggestions. Well, of course, the wilder and crazier the suggestions are, the less likely that I'll take them. Okay, so now we have these, but the caboose is on the wrong side, so that's not good. I really do like the horn on this particular locomotive. So I have an idea. I have a brainwave for how I can switch these out. We put the caboose here. Go forward. Obviously, we need to go forward into another track, namely this one. Then we can start bringing this train backwards. Oops. Yes, correct direction. The grade here is not that steep, 1%, but that's a heavy enough train, I guess. Let's see how heavy this train is. Already 1,500 tons, despite this being such a short train. And I did look up how much the ore weighs when I created those loads. Let's make sure all the switches are set correctly here, just in case. Mother Slug says, I'm not one to say or point out something unless it's set on realistic aspect. Yeah, exactly. And, having experience with real railroading, which I do not, obviously is an important qualification too. All right. We need to move forward, but I kind of would like to get rid of that extra caboose first. I don't think we should be dragging it around just because. So let's make sure. And meanwhile, it looks like that TOFC has been unloaded already. I mean, I shouldn't say already. I'm sure that the timing is exactly correct. I will say that since I started posting images of the locomotives that I've made, which are not perfect, I am not a pro designer. I've gotten a lot of people adding my DM and asking me, like, could I make such and such locomotive? And short answer is no. I'm basically not in, and I'm not going to start making any locomotives for anybody else. First of all, I'm not really actually skilled enough to do that, but I'm not looking to make that into some sort of sideline, or I'm not looking for suggestions of locomotives to make. I have plenty of ideas of my own about what locomotives to make. Yeah, I think I'm controlling the wrong locomotive here. So, while I was talking, I was not paying enough attention, so we basically went way too far. So I think to avoid this multitasking, the thing to do here now probably would be, once we get through the yard with this string of wheat-covered hoppers, I think the thing to do is to actually put it on autopilot and get these into the Wallace Grain Elevator. The Wallace Grain Elevator is a very mysterious building. I don't know what its real function is in real life, but it is a ugly concrete structure which obviously no longer exists, not obviously, but totally does not exist anymore. That is the grain elevator in Wallace. All of the buildings in downtown Wallace created by me, all on the DLS, and all 100% accurate to the information that I was able to find in photographs from various studios and so forth. Studios, museums. So yeah, let's navigate to Wallace Grain. And, you know, regarding these requests that I've been getting for people who would like me to make some car or some locomotive, I do assume that the people who are making those requests are all, let's say, under the age of 18. So I give them a sort of a blanket, no problem. Yeah, I just can't do that for you response. And I also appreciate their enthusiasm for a given locomotive that they would like to see. Now, I do have a track in the back there that I envision as being the caboose track, but there's no way to get there right now, so I'm just going to not worry about it. But as we can see, we have actually managed to unload that, but yeah, I can't multitask on this right now. I need to focus. Now, I know it is possible to get the AI to sort of like instruct it to couple and then obviously go on to do other tasks. But I've never been fast enough to make that pan out. And when you do start programming it, then you usually have to pause. Okay, now we can put this on AI control over to Kellogg. Kellogg West lead. Now, in theory, all of these cars could be unloaded in one episode, but I doubt that that would actually happen. Did it couple? Yes, it did. And of course, now that we have these wine reefers delivered to the Wallace warehouse, it would be feasible to put that flat car on this track, but then we'd have flat cars on two different spots, and that seems like not a very good idea. Aha, the grain is actually unloading right now. Yeah, it's weird that I do have the derailment prevention, but that switch, we were just running that switch there. Derailed? Uh-oh. That is the literally first derailment that I have had on this playthrough so far. And that is definitely a derailment that should have been prevented by the derailment prevention rule. I wouldn't say so overall, but it is possible. And although that was a first derailment, and I'm not happy about that, nevertheless, I think it's also worth noting it was not a catastrophic derailment, and also it was not like one of those derailments that I really hate that have no basis in any reality in any prototypical operation. Definitely the most embarrassing and also least prototypical types of derailments in Trainz gameplay is when you simply forget about a train completely and it drives off at 100 miles an hour and falls off the end of the track or something.
Detector milepost 118.0. Detector milepost 118.0. No units. Total axles 5. 2. Train speed 3. 5.
So that detector is just announcing the fact that the NP local train has come down off Lookout Pass. And I really do like using those detectors in that way. And the fact that they are audible across the layout for me is an advantage. But I say that partly because by luck, it seems like I found a good detector that is not overly loud and obnoxious. And there's some detectors that are extremely loud on the DLS. And if you get that one, then it's sort of like you might regret it. Okay, let's see what actually happened with the grain unloading, because I have a feeling it's one car has been unloaded. That is correct. And are we going to have space? I'm going to say we may actually have space to do all of these, because we only need 3 more car lengths. That seems to be exactly what we've got. There needs to be a bumper here. I don't know how I could have possibly forgotten to put the bumper on. But that seems fairly obvious. But yeah, now Wallace will have enough wheat to survive another week. And now we have a bunch of empty covered hoppers in the yard. Oh, well, that one, it's really mysterious. Why does it empty them at different speeds? I have no idea. Sorry to whip you around there a little bit too much. Looks like we're still unloading there. No progress. So Tashiar has done 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need 5 more, basically. So let me see if this one actually did get the unloading while moving added to its capability list. Seems perhaps not. I was somewhat hoping it would have, but it did not. So let's go back then in that case and get our covered hoppers placed back in the yard. Let's tag them as they are going to plumber. Yeah, it has happened a couple of times that the stop traffic stops has stopped working across the route. And I don't know. It's kind of mysterious for me. I don't know what to say. It's one of those frustrating things about Trainz is that bugs do crop up even after you've gotten everything working correctly. The same as what happened with that beer track and Haugen, where it just stopped working. Couldn't get it to work again no matter how many times I tried placing it down. Again, just the way it is. And it may indicate some bug not with the asset in question. It may indicate that there's some other script on the route that is causing things to blank out and go buggy. So I think now we can put all of the covered hoppers together on track 3 and pull them forward. Not a perfectly centered there. I'm going to pull forward just slightly. Now that time I didn't do the horn because I was thinking that, well, the auto horn always takes care of it, and then it didn't take care of it. Mother Slug says, all railroad games have that problem. Worse is when they stop on the crossing. Yep. I will say that having 2 routes that I'm playing in these operational series right now, I don't think that I could add a 3rd because there are so many little things like that to correct and fix, and they continually need fixing, in my view. Like, many of them are things where I'm finding them for the first time and making them more to my liking, redesigning the routes or changing some of the settings. Especially true for the PMB that I didn't design myself. This is my own route. Wallace Branch is my own route, but PMB is not. And it's obviously a really great one. But it's just too much work to imagine adding a 3rd one. And I guess in the long term, now I just heard a switch get thrown there. So definitely the derail prevention rule is still active. But yeah, I don't see myself adding a 3rd, but what I do envision is that after a complete playthrough, although these are continuous sessions, but in my mind, a complete playthrough is after a week's set of tasks have been completed. That is when I think I might swap out one of the routes or both of the routes for something else, or maybe I would just go down to doing one route only for a certain amount of time. And not permanently stopping doing that route, but maybe pausing while I did another route for a while. And I strongly considered Midwestern Rails, although Microchip is already doing that route. I strongly considered that one. But yeah, it has certain issues. I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but certain issues that made it difficult for me to imagine too many things that I wanted to edit So I decided against that one. So I think that the actual probable result is that I would change in favor of the Central Europe route that's currently under development by Slovak Eagle and a team of people that are actually working on that one. And first of all, it is absolutely gorgeous. So there's no question about the quality of the route and the amount of detail and love that went into the creation of that route. Now, on the other hand, downside for me is that as a European route, I'm not knowledgeable about it, and so I don't know some of the ways that it should be operated. And then a second downside, which is related to that, is that that route is, well, I'm guessing it's more oriented towards passenger, and I don't really do passenger on my playthroughs, as you know. So, what I want to do is switching, and I'm sure that it will be great for switching, except that it might not be set up for it, if you see what I'm saying. Like, the track layout would be great for it, except that none of the multi-industry news or multi-industry 2s are set up the way that I would set them up, so that is going to take a certain amount of time. I think that they will be set up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they wouldn't be set up the way that I set mine up, so that is going to take a certain amount of time. Okay, last time we pulled out of here, we actually derailed, which is unbelievable. So now we have that track cleared, that this caboose could go into the caboose track. Two more TOFCs, but looking at the clock, I can see that there's not a chance that we'll get both of them. That's fine. I was not a believer. And incidentally, this other pipe track, I believe there might be actually some pipes going through in this playthrough. I'm not sure. Today's session has been odd in that almost all of the switching moves that I have made are related to things that need urgently to get done today game time. And looking at the clock on the corner there, it is 11:10 game time, roughly. So we're doing pretty good now. We handled 2 of the today tasks already in this session, and then 1 in the prior session. So 3 today tasks done, and then this current TOFC task, of course, is another one which will shortly be completed, not in the very near term, but in the next episode it will be completed. And then, before this episode is over, I plan to jump over to Mullen and see if we can at least drop off the, I believe it's beer? No, meat. Meat that is heading for actually Mullen, which is another today task. Okay, that is that. Get this one centered a little bit better this time as opposed to last time. I think we've done 3 this session, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 more to go. Okay, everything is working with car tagger. Okay, we're in control. And I think the thing to do here is not to try to drop off these cars, but rather to have the train sit here, because we've got plenty of time. So they're going to, the folks on this platform are going to take their time and actually unload these 3 reefers. And then we're going to pull away with the whole train. Yeah, and there's plenty of space on that loading platform to handle all 3 of those. So that's going to be great. Richard Dreyfuss here at the head end. He's going to be satisfied, and then he doesn't have far to go after that. All he has to do is take these 5 boxcars right next door to the morning mine, which is right here. So now let's jump across to trying to get as much done as feasible. Are we close to the end of the track? No, we are not. We have plenty of space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So essentially these 2 bay hoppers, that's the ones that we have left to do. Before we end the episode, I have to jump across here to Amy Yumi. Who is at the smelter and has completely unloaded a train of ore cars. But we do have a challenge here, which is that we also have a train of tank cars, which needs to be pulled up. I'm not entirely sure what the best way to handle those tank cars is. But part of me thinks that maybe the best option would be to push them right back down to where they came from, because we're just on the wrong side of them. It's just, there's no avoiding the fact that we have no really realistic way to do a runaround of those cars so that we can be on the correct side of them with this, with our lash up. Mother Slug says, catch you later. Have a good one. I have a doctor's appointment. Oh, great. Good luck. And thanks for joining. Yes, I think when I push, I'm going to have to go back and look. I am the main consumer of my content, I know. I'm going to have to go and look and see what was I thinking when I pushed those tank cars up, but I may have been thinking that, I may not have been thinking that Amy Yumi was up here on this side of things. I may have forgotten where she was, so the fact that she is on the wrong side is perhaps not what my initial thought or plan was anyway. Another option, of course, would be to simply leave Amy Yumi where she was and deal with those tank cars separately. But then that would leave Amy basically stuck there for probably a number of episodes, and we don't want that. we're getting her back into the action. That's going to help ultimately complete these tasks. Okay, so everything here is on that one track. Now, all these ore cars, they're not really going anywhere specifically right now. We do need, in general, to pick up more ore. There are a lot of ore pickup related tasks that need to get done. But I think they probably will just sit and wait until we know where they're going, as opposed to heading back to Wallace immediately. It's the tank cars that we really want to handle first. And of course, we just brought in that ore train from Wallace, which no doubt is sitting in Kellogg right now. So that will be taken care of as well at the same time, basically. Love those Procore tank cars. Everybody says it. I'm saying it too. But I wish that they were a little bit more flexible in being able to edit what loads they can accept. And perhaps they can accept all liquid loads, and I just was trying to add a load that was not marked as a liquid, and then in that case, perhaps it would just be a matter of editing a load to make sure it was liquid. I don't know. Okay, I actually pulled that in way too far, because what I want to do is actually separate these out, don't I? Should have been looking at the switch instead of looking at the train going by. Let's have this one go in here and this one go in the middle track. Or let's have them go in this far track. Track number 4, I guess. That way Amy Yumi can actually do the runaround and get on the other side of those tank cars, and Amy Yumi could be in charge of pushing them in. That's a consideration, possibility. It's also possible that Alan Alda could do it, I guess. All right. But I have to say, we are really over time for this episode. So this is going to do it. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I, of course, have enjoyed myself thoroughly. Even though we had our first derailment on camera, first derailment of all the playthroughs so far, although I think it was not entirely my fault, that will go in as my first really serious rules violation for not checking the switches. It was bound to happen. It was somewhat inevitable and somewhat expected. And actually the fact that I'd had such a good record up until now was what was unexpected. So, hope to see you again next time here on the Wallace Branch or on the PNB, which will be the next episode out in a few days. Thanks for joining.